Angela,
Yes.
welcome in.
Thank you.
Looking forward to talking it over with you. And let's start at the very beginning. Born October 10th, 1955. What can you tell me about your parents, your family, and your early childhood memories?
That's a good place to start. I was born in Fayette, Missouri, so we were living in Boonville, so lots of farmers and lots of work there. We ended up, there wasn't a lot of work, so during the week we would be in the Alton, East Alton area so that my father could work, and then the weekends were totally dedicated to being on the farm or in Boonville.
Yeah.
I grew up with adoptive parents, and for a long time, I thought my mother was my cousin. And it wasn't until I was about 8 years old that the truth came out, and how that is, she had finally remarried, and I'm sitting around and visiting with her children, and my brother looked at me and he goes, "How come she looks like you more than any of the rest of us?" And that's when they finally told me. So,
oh my goodness.
that was how it went. But I loved the farm, and it was my grandmother, my biological grandmother, and she taught me a lot about life and the simpler things of life, and I loved it out there, and that never changed.
Mm-hmm.
But my life changed a little bit during there, just because those country people, they're not right. They change your names. They put Bob or Ellen at the last.
What'd they put on
name.
yours?
I was Lynn.
Okay.
I was
Yeah,
Lynn.
that's probably where I would have guessed. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Lynn and or Sue Lynn every once in a while, and it would be at funerals that I would, when all the kids were together, we'd figure out what our real names were. Silly stuff like that, but it was all good.
Yeah.
I had a pretty good life.
How did you find out at 8, and was that traumatic that you were?
I started asking questions when my brother was trying to figure out why me and his mom looked exactly alike, when none of the other children looked as much like her as I did at that age. So I started asking questions, and the woman that I was being raised by finally told me, and told me, "Oh, well, it's not really your cousin," and they had their side of the story, and eventually I heard the other side of the story, but I just kind of went with the flow, and I was very independent, and things weren't always good, but I was one of those people that, nope, you can't get me down today, at a very young age, and I owe that to my grandmother.
Yeah, that's a great trait to have. How did she help give you that guidance?
You know what? She never talked about God much, but she would take me out into the fields and stuff, and we'd lay on the ground, and she'd ask me to listen to the grass grow, or we'd watch clouds, or we'd swing from vines, or go look for calves or something. But so she kept my feet on the ground with nature, and wanted me to know how peaceful and wonderful it was, and how you could really step out of all the chaos by being in nature.
Yeah.
And that was her gift to me when I was younger, and she was a big influence on me when I became older too, for my adventures that I had when I came back to St. Louis. So I was one of those, the more that someone would try to get me down or say that I wasn't cut like the rest of them, it would just motivate me to do better and say, okay, watch this.
Yeah.
I wasn't one that just kind of imploded and said, well, yeah, that's what I am. I just wasn't having it.
Sure.
I just wasn't having it.
That's a great trait to have in life in general, but to have it at a young age is
yes,
even
I was very
better.
blessed to have that.
Yeah.
I really was, because a lot of people don't get that.
Sure.
They don't manifest to that,
Yeah.
and I just think the Lord was with me the whole time. I didn't know it, but he was with me and said, you're going to get through this, and you're going to do great things, and I think I have.
Yeah.
I think I have.
Would you characterize your childhood as happy? How would you describe it?
During the week, it was chaotic. On the weekends, it was wonderful.
And why the discrepancy?
Well, I was in a family that was not necessarily very kind. They were mentally ill, if you want a better word for it. I can't find one. But on the weekends, I had the farm.
And you loved the farm.
And I loved the farm.
What did you love about it?
Just all of it. The way it smelled, the way it looked, to be able to walk around and watch dung beetles make a little pile of poop and march it for forever, or just the simple things. I
Yeah.
liked things seemed so complicated during the week, and I had to have so much energy to endure it, that when I would be on the farm on the weekends, I could let all that go and just be part of my surroundings and be at peace. So
Close friends, or was it tough to have close friends with being on a farm and in a unique set of circumstances when you were young?
when I was younger, but as I got older, of course, I met people my age
Yeah.
in Boonville, and we were your typical, let's go out on the country roads and get crazy. So I got to do that too,
Yeah.
you know.
You were a clarinet player,
Yes.
and in 7th grade, called up to the big leagues to play with the high school band.
High school band, the marching band at that.
Yeah, in 1968, quite a time in general, but here you are at a young age. I gather you must have been pretty good, right?
Must have been pretty
Yeah.
good.
And so what was
Won a
what was
bunch
the
of medals.
circumstances? Yeah, what were the circumstances then to get the call up, and what was it like to be playing with a bunch of other high schoolers?
Because I was earning medals in state champ and regional and state champions. I guess they just recruited me early. I guess they thought I had it all together.
Did you have it all together?
No, not at all. I faked it all. But, they were convinced, so it all worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like playing in a band in 1968, albeit the high school band, not necessarily like out on tour, but what was that experience like?
It was cool. Of course, I was hot shit. I was young. I was the youngest one, and everybody was fascinated by that because it didn't happen very often. And that was the time when people just, like the juniors and the seniors, they all wanted to be rock stars. So they had bands on the side, and I always got invited to be around those. And so, yeah, it was the hippie generation, and so I was exposed to all of that kind of early.
Sure.
Kind of early, and I just went with it because it was always what I liked about it. Kept me from being home during the week.
Yeah.
And everybody was always friendly and partying and having a good time, and everybody loved everybody. So it was, for me, it was a great escape.
Did you get to experience things that most 7th graders weren't experiencing?
Oh, by far.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, by far. So it got to the point, especially when I was in the 8th grade, I'd look around, I'd be in class like, these guys are so immature. They just have no clue what's going on. So I kind of separated from that and lost friends in there because I was always at the high school doing things.
Sure. It's a unique deal.
Doing the marching band and other concerts and stuff like that. So it kind of threw me into a pre-adulthood kind of early, which I don't know if that was a blessing or just had a profound effect on me for at least 10 years.
Sure.
I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but I sit here before you today and have, I can say that I've had a good life.
What was going to school like in the late 60s and early 70s?
Well, I was one of the first in high school to get sent home for wearing jeans.
Oh, really?
Girls couldn't wear jeans in the early 70s. That was a no-no. That was bad news. And your skirts had to touch your knees. The the dean would come and, get on the floor. So I got sent home a lot, or I'd go to my locker and get the real clothes out. For breaks, for lunch breaks, a lot of times we had an A&W root beer stand across the street, and there's pictures of us in the yearbook that we'd go over there to smoke.
How did that?
We smoked cigarettes, because it was cool then.
Yeah, sure.
There were no age restrictions, and that made you more adult, I guess.
Yeah.
But I was a rebel.
Yeah.
But I did well,
You did well in school academically? Yeah.
I did well.
Yeah. What were you involved in school other than the band?
There wasn't any time for anything else.
That was it. You were
That
all
was
in on the
it.
band.
And that's what, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was the real fun. So I just kind of stayed in that. And I did leave school early, a year early, because it just became so crazy. Life became so crazy that...
Why did life become so crazy?
Just drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Drugs and alcohol. And
it was the
and then
early
it got
70s.
Right. And it was not good at home. And so I faked it and had my first apartment at 15 in Alton.
What?
And
You had your first apartment at 15?
Yep. And I worked ironing clothes by the piece. And I also, the very first burger chef came in town, and I was employed for a whole 2 days.
I loved Burger Chef.
And it was, Angela was like Dennis the Menace. We helped set it up, and the first day we were open, I was supposed to be the fry cook. And there was this big red button, and I'm like, what's this for? And I hit it, and all the fire suppression came out, so they didn't get to open.
Oh, no.
But I had to stay the next day and help clean, and then I was told to leave.
So you utilized your services for the cleanup, and then they decided, now we're going to part ways now that we've gotten your cleanup services.
Right. So I went from there to Howard Johnson's.
Okay.
And I was their night cook.
And how old are you again? You're still 15?
I was just turning 16.
Oh, my goodness.
So I fend for myself, and it took...
Did you have roommates?
Huh?
Did you have roommates?
No.
Oh,
no.
my
I was pretty fearless. I wanted to do everything my way.
I mean, do you look back on that now and go, I can't believe that I had an apartment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't even know how I sit here before you.
That's what I'm thinking.
I do not know how I sit here before you. And then one day that just, I still wasn't finding the peace that I needed. So I had a car and bought an ID and set off and went to Texas. And for about 6-7 years, if it didn't fit in my car, I didn't own it.
Okay, we got a lot. I got a lot from just that little 15 seconds there. So you decided you were going to move to Texas? Mm-hmm. What caused that decision? Why did you want to do that?
So the only person I knew down there was my brother Sam, who was also adopted into this family. And I thought, I said, I can't. If I stay here, I'm going to die. So he said, come on down to Houston. It's booming. And it was.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you at this point?
Now I'm 16.
Okay.
Almost 17. But still, I'm not supposed to be doing the things that I'm doing.
Sure. Yeah.
But for $50, you could buy an ID. Yeah. So I bought an ID, and off I went, and got down there, learned how to bartend, and the Galleria had just been
The Galleria in Houston, sure.
Yeah, with the big ice skating rink in the middle, and worked at a place called Michael's. They brought me in, taught me how to bartend and wait tables, and that pretty much sustained me for those years I was on the road, because you can get a job anywhere waiting tables and bartending.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
So how did you enjoy that experience?
Very interesting.
I bet.
I'm always interested in people, and I still am.
Yeah.
And I always thought, I come from an area that was very prejudiced, and I didn't believe in it. I couldn't understand the purpose for it, because we're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my travels, I got to meet very many different cultures of people and ethnic groups, and I would, I'd be curious. And it helped me realize that we're all the same. We might look different, but we're all the same. And I really needed that for my peace, because where my world wasn't always, was very secular. And as I look back on it, it was very controlled, and it was killing me. And so it wasn't the smartest thing I've ever done in my life, and it got rough, and there were some very scary times. But as I got older, it was so valuable to be able to break barriers, especially in my nursing career, to break barriers and be able to just love on people, no matter who they were or where they come from. And that was important to me.
Sure.
It was important to me.
You said it got rough at times. I'm sure it did.
Yes, it did.
How did it get rough? Financially, experiences?
Experiences, going into some neighborhoods maybe that weren't ready for Angela. And, because of my age and, trying to exploit me.
Yeah.
And then me having a little bit of redneck in me, thinking I could take anything.
Yeah.
And so there were some times that, again, I'm lucky to be alive sitting here in front of you.
Yeah.
But when I look at it now, I mean, it doesn't hurt. It just, wow, what lesson did I make? Did I make then? Or have then? I think it just makes me more acceptable of people, and not so dramatic over people and their neuroses.
Well, yeah, you've met a bunch of people, bunch of different people, and started at a young age doing so.
Yes.
So you've got some. You were collecting wisdom from a very young age, and experiences as well. So you went to school for nursing, Barnes College of Nursing. When did you do that?
So when I came back, I ended up having Joe, and we were living in Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania was a very harsh area. It was economically poor. Wasn't really good. And I'm like, I can't raise a kid here. So I came back to St. Louis and started working in restaurant bars. Ended up at Tucker's at Soular's.
Sure.
Had only been open a couple of years and had just finally opened all the floors there, and it was crazy money, lots of fun. But after a while, that I got bored, and I really wanted to set an example to my son that no matter what you're faced with, you can do whatever you put your mind to. And my grandmother was getting older, and she blew my socks away after her retirement, but she just kept pushing me. You got to do something for the seniors. She was instrumental with starting the OATS program here in Missouri. The transportation was a little bit more detailed back then. Now it's just transportation, but I felt like I really owed her to find whatever it is she was wanting me to do. I wasn't really sure what it was. So I decided to go back to college and try nursing, but I wanted to do it my way.
Yeah.
And I was able to do it. So there were adult daycares around, and they were in church basements or with Easter seals or something, and they were pretty deplorable in my view. And Granny kept saying, we're not dead yet. Make it better. So I started planning while I was still in college, and of how I was going to do it. I was told the more people told me I couldn't do it, the more I'm like, watch this. I had doctors that told me I couldn't do it. I had professors that told me I couldn't do it, that my idea would never work. But it did. And I just pursued it. It was hard, and it was glorious. It was glorious to watch them all. Because, I'm getting older too, and I don't want to just sit around and wait to die.
Yeah.
Have fun,
Yeah.
and trying to find things for people that are losing their abilities and stuff, but keep them in life and to have fun.
Sure.
That's what my grandmother wanted, and so I was able to show her before she passed what I did, and
That had to mean the world to her and
Yes.
to you to be able to show her.
absolutely. And while I was doing it, of course, there was a few people in town. Oh, I want to do that. And then about 5 years later, I opened up just a few days before 9/11. Got through that, and but all of a sudden it became popular, and more people wanted to do it. So I helped other people start some of those entities, and then of course, inevitably, you had corporate people that said, "Oh, we're bigger, we're better, we'll do it."
Yeah.
And they kind of twisted it a little bit.
Yeah.
But so after 15 years, I decided to let it go, and the economy was different.
Yeah.
Assisted living, came around, and I really advocated for that in Jeff City too. So I just kind of thought maybe it's time for me to slow down
Sure.
and find something new to do, and I did so. But it was really cool. Had a lot of fun. A lot of people told me, my mom can't do that. I'm like, watch this. And some of my folks even got brave enough to start telling their sons or daughters when they come to pick them up, you can sit over there and wait for a minute. I'm not quite done. But when they'd first come to me, they were kind of submissive and introverted. And most of my family's like that. Some of my families did not, because mom woke up and she was really hoping that mom would stay asleep. But too bad. So sad. We did a lot of fun things that up until then, you got old and they shoved you in a nursing home and you stayed in a bed and you ate soft food and that was the end of it. You waited to die.
You waited to die, yep.
And I wasn't having it,
Yeah.
Wasn't having it. It wasn't the right thing to do. So I really tried to be an advocate for seniors, especially those with memory loss. And it was awesome.
That's such
It was
a
just
great
awesome.
thing.
So it's no surprise that I ended up with Dude's Playground and a similar thing that, you just don't give up. You deal with what you got and try to make it happy.
Tell me about Dude's Playground and what the backstory is on Dude's Playground, which is something that is now near and dear to your heart.
Yes. My brother-in-law is a veteran, and he has disabilities, physical disabilities. He's still able to walk, but he also has very severe PTSD, which had migraines and stuff. And when he married my sister, one of my sisters, they ended up buying this property that was just beautiful. It's out from the city and it had the lakes, and it was just a nice place to go sit. And for me, it reminded me of my farm days.
Yeah, that makes
It
sense.
did. And he had some ideas of what he wanted to do. And again, a lot of people were saying, Rich, I don't think you can do that. Well, as soon as he heard that and I heard that, it was like, watch this.
Watch this. Here we go.
And so little by little, I mean, we've done a lot of work to make it accommodating, but the first couple of years, it was just getting people out there to come fish.
Yeah.
And feed them lunch and get them to talk to each other and feel like they were part of the living.
Yeah.
And it's grown. So we're 5 years in, almost 6 years in. I think this is our 6th season.
Okay.
And everything has really come to full circle.
Yeah.
And we have things the way we want it. And we have a lot of recognition now and people that are really seeing what the benefit of it is and wanting to be part of it.
Yeah.
And so I just stuck with him. I really didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I did labor out there to do things. When people come out, I make sure that There's safety things in place, kind of make sure that they're watching. And of course, some of these people have medical needs. So I wanted to make sure that I was out there in case an emergency happened so that I could at least direct the emergency care. Be able to, also be available if they needed to talk. Made sure they got fed, because that's the mama in me. Make sure they got fed. The cleanup, work with get a good volunteer base going. And all the volunteers do really is maybe bait hooks or sit and talk to them, or if they don't have an electric wheelchair, which we've had a few donated now, so we can get them in them. But just assist them in any way they need it. If they need to get from point A to point B, if we need to make a plate for them, just that's what our volunteers do. They're just more of a companion kind of entity. But it's been a real joy doing that. Real joy. People that I have one gentleman that he really never had much to say. He was always showing up, and he does have a speech and impediment from his injuries and stuff, but he just always kind of stayed by the wayside. But twice now I've got him in front of cameras and for a few seconds, and he's kind of come out of his shell. He's a little bit more vocal.
Sure.
And feels a little bit more comfortable. He always felt, the Vietnam vets were not treated right when they came back, and especially in the smaller towns. So if they felt that long time ago when they first got back, they kind of pretty much stayed to themselves and isolated. And this was nice to see somebody say, I don't need to do this anymore. I can. So what? I have a speech impediment. I can still get out there and have some good time. So little things like that.
Sure.
Is what really makes your heart feel good.
Absolutely.
And
it's got to be so fulfilling.
Makes your day, like you've done something well for the day.
Absolutely. Your selflessness, I would consider it to be selflessness. Is that something that's always been there, or is that something that's kind of evolved as you've grown?
I don't know. Even when I was younger, when things were happening, and I was like, nope, you're not going to get me down. It kind of evolved into seeing other people that were struggling.
Right.
And trying to kind of maybe help them through example that doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to succumb to that.
Yeah.
I'm not always good at it. I've had my moments too where I crawled in a hole for a little while and cried like a baby and said, oh, poor me. But for the most part, I thought even if I can help one person not feel like they're defeated, then that helps me.
Yeah.
That helps validate me and what I've done and what I've endured. So when you say selflessness, not all of it. I mean, I was trying to keep myself healed too.
Sure.
So, I was a little bit, selfish.
Sure.
Because, sometimes I would go out and seek these people.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't feeling right and I needed to feel right.
Yeah,
so
sure.
If I go out and make somebody else feel right, then I'll feel right.
Everybody's winning.
Yes. It's a win-win thing.
Everybody's winning.
I think that's just the way I've been all my life.
Well,
when there's a need, you just address it and don't let anybody tell you can't do it.
Yeah. Tell me about your family. You made reference to having Joe and being in Pennsylvania. What is your family situation now?
Well, Joe's my son that lives nearby me now, and we have a great relationship. I don't get to see him as much as I'd like sometimes, but he's a very busy man. Mm-hmm. I have a stepdaughter who's going to be 29. I've been with her since she's 3 days old, and unfortunately, her father and mother have kind of disappeared into the darkness, and we're very close. I have a really great relationship with my siblings from my biological side of the family. They're all in Waterloo. So that's good. Healing. I belong to a great church, and there's lots of people there that I've made friends with, and have them in my life to have some fun. I live on the Sac. That's what we call it. It's a cul-de-sac. We've always called it the Sac.
Yeah.
Been there since '98, and it has been truly a blessing. I mean, we're all very close. We're in each other's business, but not to the nosy point.
Yeah.
If something's going down, we're all in there together. And it's just a great place to live. It's just, that's my family too. That's probably been the greatest source for me in the past 25 years that I've lived there as far as family. They have been my family. And I wouldn't trade it for, well, you can blast me out of there. They're going to carry me out of that place in a pine box. They certainly are. So.
What a wonderful thing to have that kind of relationship with your neighbors.
The Sac is known in South County.
That's right.
It's known. We've had some pretty big affairs where we've invited the neighborhood and all the first responders, and just trying to pull we have 3 streets in our little subdivision, and our SAC attitude is we all should know each other.
Yeah.
So if there's any emergency or we all need to pull together. So we haven't done it lately, but every fall we'd have a big to-do.
Is that right?
And invite everyone, and just so that there was a true sense of community.
Yeah.
In our neighborhood, so that was pretty cool too.
That's outstanding.
Even though,
how did that happen? I mean, that isn't necessarily common. Certainly, people have good relationships with their neighbors, but it sounds like you have like a real.
Well, we're all very unique, and we all like to have fun, and we would sit around and talk about things. We still do a Christmas buffet every year where we hand out flyers to all the houses.
Mm-hmm.
And say, we're going to meet at Golden Corral on this date at this time. Come share Christmas with us.
Yeah.
And that's how we did it then. I was kind of late, but some of the people that live in the cul-de-sac have been there since the houses were built.
Oh, wow.
So there's other people on those other streets that kind of do. So there was some familiarity within the neighborhood, but we just decided that, you ready to party? Okay, let's make flyers and hand them out, and we'd make the hot dogs and have the water and provide the entertainment, and everybody would bring their drinks and a side dish, and we just party.
No, that's the best.
We just party. We make sure we invite the police department, fire department, postal workers, and just try to. We were all had a deep sense of a need to have a strong community. Yeah. Because nobody wants. You're still going to have a crabby neighbor, but
sure.
if you feed them every once in a while, they tend to be a little nicer.
Yeah, you can placate them.
Yes. Yeah, so that was kind of our mission.
Oh, that's awesome. One of the things that I was looking at your notes before we sat down. How did this come to pass? Where you wrote one of your most memorable life experiences was having the chance to have miles of uninhabited beach in Oregon to yourself for about 3 hours in the morning. The tide was going out and the moon was setting. It was majestic, beautiful, and humbling. Felt very close to God and have never felt that much peace and contentment in all my life. I could have stayed there indefinitely. And your writing creates this picture for me as I read that, and I'm wondering how that came to pass.
So I have a very good friend that lives in Florence, Oregon, has a business there. And I finally went out to see her. Mm-hmm. And she was going to be busy, and she knows my nature. So she tossed the keys and told me where it was and how to get to this particular beach, and why don't I just go do my own thing. And apparently no one in Southern Oregon goes to the beach early. They don't go until late. But it was October, so it was a little bit cooler there. But and you have to walk over huge sand dunes just to get to the beach. But I crested those sand dunes, and my breath, it just took my breath. You know, there's nothing like sitting by the ocean and hearing that. And there was absolutely no one but me and the birds. I did discover one fisherman that was kind of standing out in the water, but he looked about that big. But it was just, I was like a child. It was like mine. This is all mine. And was able just to walk and listen. And I'd never seen anything like, I know the tides come and go, but to watch the moon set and watch the tide go out toward the moon was, it was majestic. It was mystical. And the noise of it, you know, it just rumbled in your chest. And it was just, it was like being one with the earth, you know. It was, I didn't really want to leave. I really didn't. And I had to find a stick and a little branch or something and put it in the sand so I knew where to go out. Because, and I walked and walked both ways, and we get in the water, you know, just walk along the water, or just sometimes just sit and watch. But watching the tide go out like that, and the moon set, and it's like 10 in the morning, and I don't think I'll ever have an experience like that again.
Wow.
That's a nature experience that it supersedes the farm, the dudes, all of it. It just, I can't describe it in any other way that it was super majestic. It made me feel very tiny, but okay. Being very tiny.
Yes.
It's just really okay being very tiny, because it's beautiful. It was just beautiful, and it was very calming and relaxing. And then my phone rang. And she was ready for me to come get her. And that's about the time. And it was weird. It's like, it was for me. It was all planned for me to have these 3+ hours out there, because as soon as that phone rang, people started coming over the dunes. It was about noon.
Yeah. And that's when people start to make their way to the beach in Oregon, I guess.
Right. You know, I guess they sleep in.
Yeah.
Whatever, but
not a bad deal.
I was very grateful. For them doing that, because I've been on several beaches before, and I've been on the Atlantic, I've been on the Gulf, I've not been on the Pacific, I've been on the Indian Ocean. Just to have that all to myself.
Have it to yourself.
Just made me feel really special. I could have pitched a tent there. I could have and stayed there for a long time, but that was a gift that Stacy gave me to just have some time to myself and have some good reflection. I knew I was leaving the country soon.
Right.
And I wanted something really beautiful in my life, and that's what it was.
Oh, that's incredible. You made reference to seeing the Indian Ocean. You went on a mission trip to Kenya.
I did.
Tell me the backstory on how that came to pass and what you experienced there.
I retired early from Bethesda because I wasn't compliant with the COVID issues.
Okay.
And I was doing nurse administrative work for their assisted living at Bethesda, and I just couldn't do it, so I retired early. And there were visitors, the people that do the mission in Kenya, just happened to be at church that Sunday when I said, "Hey, I retired." And they're like, "Hey, come to Africa." And I'm like, "Oh, sure." And never thought that would happen. And then my pastor said, "You really want to go?" And I'm like, "Well, absolutely. I'm not really sure what I would do." They, what they have there in Mombasa is, for better words, a clinic that services those with HIV. And it's mostly women, because men don't want to admit it, even though we had a few men. They make sure they get their meds and make sure that they have education and make sure that they get food and learn ways to make money through a craft or a skill. So they had specifically asked me, there was talk and articles coming out that they were having a real problem with diabetes. And I worked with the Kilo Foundation out of WashU for about 5 years doing research on diabetes back in the early 2000s, and thought, okay, well, this will kind of be like that. It'll be fun. And so I said yes, and my church, took me there. And what ended up happening, it wasn't really a diabetic problem at all. It was just a culture problem and other things going on that the Kenyan people just weren't being taught or aware of, or didn't feel like they were worthy enough to get help. And so I managed to, my equipment wouldn't work to test them. That was the problem too. My equipment wouldn't work in Mombasa because it was hot. It's on the equator, So I couldn't really test people for that, but I started noticing other things. So I tried to befriend them and these groups that would come to this clinic and assess them and try to find what was going on with them and maybe tweak their food or just talk to them, or if they needed medical care, our clinic paid for them to go so that they would get the care. And that was good because I couldn't use my equipment there. I mean, it didn't get below 98 at night.
Wow.
And we didn't have any air conditioning. And but it wasn't really that bad. It really wasn't. Until I rode the equator on this horrible, horrible bus to the other side of Kenya, where it was totally different. It was green. It was lush. There was mountains. It was, maybe 75 during the day and 62 at night. And my equipment worked there, but I still didn't find the diabetic problem. It was a nutritional problem. It was a spiritual problem. It was just they don't want to speak up about disabilities or problems because of just the nature of the way people treat each other in that country. That if you're inferior, you might lose your life and all your stuff. That's just they're very kind of savage in that way in some ways. Or they'll give it away for their children, or whatever, to protect their children. So it was great to be able to just love on these people and find out what was bothering them and try to help them have better days and be healthier. And my first, get paid in chickens.
Got paid in chickens.
I got paid in chickens. There, that was interesting.
I bet.
There was, I didn't really know what to do with the chicken, but we did eat it later. Or fruit. You get fruits. That was in Western Kenya. Eastern Kenya was a bit different, because it's more metropolitan.
True.
And by the way, the Indian Ocean on the side didn't compare to the Pacific Ocean at all.
Oh, is that right?
Not at all.
What's going on as
Lots
far as...
of seaweed. Yeah. There's a lot of traffic in the water there with boats and stuff, seagoing boats. And I think it just keeps it stirred up. So there's a lot of seaweed and kelp and stuff that line the beaches. And so you don't really want to get in it all that much. It's still beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's still beautiful, but not like Oregon.
Yeah, not like Oregon.
Like that, my Oregon experience.
Absolutely.
Destin was great too, Florida and all that. That's beautiful too, but I like Oregon.
Yeah,
But Oregon was all mine.
yeah, Oregon is all yours.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you had it,
right.
you had it, you had it to yourself. I wanted to get your perspective on this. You wrote, I think it's interesting how you went from waiting/bartending to nursing to continue providing service to others. The first, you were helping others with nurturing their many addictions, to helping others overcome the same. Your life has had that kind of theme throughout the course of it. What do you think about
I find it
that
very
thread?
interesting. I just find it very interesting. I was kind of sick too, and waiting tables and bartending, that's easy money.
Yeah.
And people drink a lot, and eat a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I pushed it. I wanted to make money, so I pushed it and I pushed it and I pushed it. And it was, inevitably my downfall too, but I still wanted that connection with people. And I'm not really sure. I took some test at Merrimack about where my interest would be. And funny, it said either engineer or nursing. And I'm like, I hate math. So I chose nursing just to see what it would be like. And then I realized in a way I was still hustling people.
Yeah.
But in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
To all the damage we do to ourselves, especially when we're young, to be able to talk to people and help them work through that. And again, just like my old folks, it's just like, you don't have to say, I can't, you don't have to say, you'll never make it.
Right.
You can still do it. So to me, it was parallel, almost parallel. It just, the focus was different. One was like, how unhealthy can I be today, to how can we make this day you feel better?
Yeah.
But I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still interacting with people. I'm still listening. I'm still wanting to love on them and trying to make their day good.
Yeah.
Just trying to make their day good. So
That's a great thing, though, to be conscious of. You want to help other people have their day be good.
Well, I didn't get a lot of that growing up. There wasn't a lot of resources of help for me. So that's another thing that became, I just like, that's what I needed to do, because I didn't want anybody to feel like I did,
Mm-hmm.
or worry or think that there wasn't anything out there. So that's just, the more I did it, like, again, it helped me heal, but it also, I wanted people to know that you don't have to succumb to that. You can do anything you want.
Sure.
Might not be the right things to do. And it may hurt every once in a while.
Yeah.
But you can still, if I can help somebody not feel like I did,
Right.
then that's a good thing.
That's a great thing.
That's a good thing.
That's a great thing. You recently were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Yes.
Tell me about what has taken place and how things have gone here over the last.
It's gone really quick, actually. Things started changing. I was doing really great. I felt great. I was active. I was getting into all kinds of stuff. And about October, I just started coughing and having really bad headaches and spitting all the time. This gross thing of spitting. And we honestly thought it was allergies. The ragweed was really bad. I've never had problems with allergies in the past. My son has, and a lot of people do, especially in this area. But that wasn't something that really bothered me. And so we kind of went on that treatment plan, but I just kept getting worse and worse and losing energy, isolating because I couldn't quit coughing and I couldn't quit spitting. And one thing led to another. It was kind of hard. First it was, got the x-ray, you got pneumonia. And then it did, got some medicine for that. And I don't know how I would get pneumonia. I'm vaccinated for it, but the antibiotics weren't working. So they did another scan and like, you've got cancer. Oh, okay. Did a biopsy. You don't have cancer. And there was a reason for it. They went through, apparently I had some kind of sac full of white blood cells that was attached to the tumor, but they couldn't see the tumor because the sac covered it. So they took a biopsy of the sac, and all they saw was white blood cells. So then it went from TB to parasites that I might have brought back from Africa to back to pneumonia, and I just kept getting sicker and sicker. And it was after, and then there was 2 weeks during the holidays. I guess everybody goes on vacation because there was crickets. Nobody was doing nothing for me. And it was very concerning. I started getting really scared. And one morning, my pastor, who's a great guy, on the crazy side, that's why I like him, South City guy.
Yeah.
I like those South City guys.
Yeah.
And he just showed up one morning and he said, I'm taking you to the doctor. And he said, I don't have an appointment. And he goes, doesn't matter. So we walked in at opening and he was standing behind me, and the little lady slid the door open and said, well, Angela, you don't have an appointment. And then she looked over me, and this look came over her face, and she said, I'll be right back, and slid the door. And I don't know what he did behind me, but the next thing, things started going like this. I got in the door. The doctor saw me, gave me some medicine for my pain because I couldn't even stand up. I was in so much chest pain and stuff, and sent me back to the surgeon. And from there, everything went really, really quick as far as getting the proper diagnosis and getting treatment. I believe that the treatment is working well. I also have a lot of faith. I believe I'm going to be healed. I still think I got some things to do. Chemo's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. You have, and it gets worse. I'm the upbeat one, so every time I'm asking questions, it's like, but Angela, it gets worse before it gets better, and it's not what I want to hear. It's not what I want to hear. But your week of is, for me, I go every 3 weeks. The week sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
And it messes with your head, like, do I really want to go through this?
Right.
But I do. I love that man right there, my son. I love my daughter. And I want to be with him for a little bit longer, and so I actually get scanned tomorrow, see what the progress has come, but, and I believe that it's going to be really good. I didn't think it would be stage 4 at all. I'm still a little worried about that, but apparently, the time we got to this point, it went to my brain and one of my kidneys. So it was very emotional for me at first, but I got the cyberknife on my brain, which I'm never going to understand that. I don't care how much education you give me, I'm never going to understand that. And all I can tell you is, I don't know if you've ever seen the Jetsons.
Sure. Absolutely.
Rosie the robot?
Absolutely.
Rosie the robot fried my brain and got rid of that's what she looked like. That's what this robot looked like. And which I found hilarious, which, humor helps you heal.
Sure.
But, I walked in and she was huge, and I'm like, where's her apron? Because it looked like Rosie the robot to me. And I still don't know how Rosie hit my brain so many times with lasers and left no marks whatsoever. I can't wrap my head around it. But apparently it's gone. I know I'm going to have to go through treatment at least for a year. That's kind of a bummer. Won't be going back to Africa anytime soon. But I have gotten an invite to go back to Oregon and go sit on the beach.
Yeah.
So I might be taking her up on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that would be quite healing, but it is an experience again, I go into these rooms and see all these, there's just dozens and dozens of people that are being treated for cancer. And here's my thing. I go in and I'm like, oh, I don't look that bad, and then I start feeling bad because I'm whining because I don't feel well. And then I see all these people that really don't look well. And I think I'm looking okay. I think I'm doing pretty good. But I have to allow myself to be okay with, I have a problem right now, and I'm fighting for my life. And I need to be okay with saying that and not just saying, somebody else has got it worse than I am, because I need to accept that. I think acceptance is part of the healing.
The perspective you now have about 6 months after being told you had cancer, then being told you didn't have cancer, and what I can't even imagine to begin to fathom, the emotional roller coaster, much less the physical that you spoke to. Where is your mind now, perspective-wise, versus, say, September of 2023?
I think medicine has come a long way, and I'm very optimistic about the healing process of it. Again, I have great faith, and I know God's hands is all over it. The perspective, I think this is a good week. So, I expect to be healed. I expect to get through this and live to have another party, or just have a good experience in life. There are times, though, that it's difficult.
Sure.
And it's like, do I really want to go through this? Because it's that difficult, But then he'll show up, my son will show up or something. I'm like, well, that was stupid to even think. So my perspective is I'm really blessed to have such a great medical team caring for me. I'm really blessed because I have dozens and dozens of people praying for me. And I'm blessed that God gave me the spirit of, not now, watch this.
Yeah.
And I think that's all going to help me get through it. I'm not that young. I'm going to die sometime, but not now. I still want to cause some trouble. I still want to love on some people,
Yeah.
But it's quite an experience. I think I'm better off than some are. But I also think that maybe we caught it early, and with the major breakthroughs they have with medicine now, I just feel like it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. I'm going to whine and bitch about the week of chemo. It's awful, but if it's only a couple times a month that I have to do that, then I'm okay. Yeah. I'll get through it.
As always.
I'll get through it.
Incredible perspective. Final question for you. What do you know now about living a happy and successful life that you didn't know when you were 20 years old?
Happy. I think my attitude of just, loving on people, and it's really sad because when I first started out, that seemed to be from the era I came from. That's what we make love, not war, just everybody get along, everybody love on each other. And that's really, really difficult to find that now. There's a lot of turmoil with people and acceptance. And I hope that is not lasting, but I think my life and all the blessings and the success that I've had is because of being positive and seeing the good in people and not being so judgmental that I can't, incorporate everybody into my party.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what got me through all of it. I mean, didn't have the worst life, but it wasn't always good either. But it was, I always saw love. I always saw love around me. And I think that's what got me through all of it and gets me through it today. And there's such a difference in people's social networks now. And they're always angry. I don't know if they need a meal or, maybe mama didn't hug them enough, or I don't know, they stubbed their toes too many times, or, one bad mushroom trip. I don't know, but they just, they gotta lighten up. People gotta lighten up and not. What was the Mardi Gras theme one year? Life is too mysterious to take too serious. And I keep that in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Just like Rosie. I mean, she was really a mystery.
Yeah. And yet she made magic.
I really do want to go buy her an apron, though. I wonder if they'll ever go make an apron and put it on her. Even though the people that were waiting on me that day, they were very young and
they didn't catch the Jetsons reference?
No, they don't. The Jetsons? What's the Jetsons? So, no, maybe I need to take them a DVD and an apron for the robot. But, it's true. It's, life is a mystery and you just got to roll with it. Yeah. Just got to roll with it and realize not every day is going to be a good day. And just get over it. Yeah. Just get over it when it's not. It might take you a couple of days. It might even take you a couple of weeks, but you got to get over it. Or you miss it. Yeah. You miss really beautiful things.
It's a great attitude to have.
Thank you. Yeah. I think that's what everybody should feel.
Yeah. It's a positive way to go through life. Angela, thank you so much for sharing your stories. I really appreciate it and enjoyed it.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks. It was fun. I hope my son enjoys it for years to come.